Hello, welcome to Working Dragon Mystic, where we discuss real, metaphysical, and occult knowledge so that you can manifest real and tangible results in your life. This week, we're going to be talking about what do you do with an entity sigil when you're done with the working. So stay tuned. Hello, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about what do you do with an entity sigil when you're done with it and why. Okay, we've tried to shoot this 4 times now. It is extremely noisy, so this is about the best it's been, so I'm hoping the microphone's not going to pick up the outside noise. Right now it doesn't seem to be, so fingers crossed, people. Okay, so I keep getting a lot of questions asking me what do I do with a sigil, and whether it be a magical sigil or an entity sigil when I am done with the working. And that's a good question. Now, it depends on a few factors. Your point of view, your personal practice, and how you utilize the sigil. So, for example, if I wanted to take the time and I knew I was going to be working a long time or even a lifetime with an entity, like Freya, for example. Everyone knows I work with Freya a lot. I might actually take the time to make a runic sigil for her, and I might actually engrave it into wood so that I could have a permanent sigil for her that I use during evocation work or invocation work when I'm working with her. And I would keep that. I'd keep it secure in my ritual room, my working area, wherever it is that you want to keep it. And I would reuse it over and over. So it is something that I've made for her, for my practice, and I reuse. That's perfectly understandable. You could do the same thing with the dragons. Now, that said, however, if I'm doing a sigil spell, when I'm doing a particular spell or working, I will craft a sigil for it, and I will keep that sigil so long as I am doing the working. So, if you look at like the long-term prosperity spell here on this channel, that spell is meant to be done over a long period of time. I often craft a sigil with that spell and place it under the candle. So the whole time I'm working this spell, that sigil is in use. Now, there have been times where I decide to make a new sigil every year with that spell. Depending. The original time I started doing it, I think I used the same sigil for 2 years straight. I do find that in long-term spells, I have come to like to refresh the sigil every year. But that's a preference. You could refresh it every month if you wanted. But that sigil is one that I would reuse as long as I'm continuing that working and continuing to draw those results in. However, let's say I'm doing one that's quicker. It's a one-time spell. Let's say I'm getting ready to go to a casino tonight and I needed to do that. Well, there's 2 ways I'm going to do this spell. I'm either going to make the sigil, get the sigil, charge the sigil, open it, and get ready to release the energy. And if I release the energy by burning it, well, that solves the question right there. I done went and burned it. There's nothing to ask, what do I do with it now? But let's say instead of burning it, I charge it so I can slip it into my wallet. Sigils like this, especially if it's like the casino one, I like to charge them and make them before I go, and then I actually just throw them away. I rip them up and toss them. I do not reuse those sigils. I like them to be unique and new every time. I find I get much better results that way. I also know people who, if they craft a sigil and they get a particularly strong result with it, they may record it in a journal, but they'll remake it every time they use it. And that's fine as well. You can do that. And when it comes to entities, you got the same thing. Paper sigils, I don't tend to keep. I tend to throw them away after I'm done working. Now, if I'm doing a week-long or a month working where I'm going to be working with the same entity, I will use the same sigil over and over and over. And then when I know I'm not going to be working with that entity for days, months, or whatever, I'll probably toss up the sigil and just print out a new one when I need it. Then you've got entities where I work with them regularly all the time, like the dragons. So for those of you who have taken the Dragon Magic course, you've probably seen this book right here. This book is a grimoire on all the different dragons that I have worked with over the years. It has their names, it has notes on their description, it has the different things that they work in or specialize in the case of specialty dragons, and it has their sigils. Now, a lot of people will say that you should never evoke an entity or activate a sigil in a book because you have to destroy the sigil to close it. I've tested this. I first tested it with the dragons because I do trust them impeccably. So I actually will evoke straight from this book. And because of that, this book is supercharged with a lot of energy. And perhaps I'll actually do a video on what some people call a tome of power or a grimoire of power and why those things are so interesting. But when you work with a book like this and you work the energy, you are using the same sigil over and over. You are keeping it. It's a little easier because you don't necessarily have to engrave the sigil every time, so that's a handy thing. And you can make your notations and you can easily grab one book that's going to help you with your workings. And since all the dragons that I work with are tucked away in here, just like Torgra's in here, so is Expoonwell, and many others. These dragons are friends of mine who I've worked with for years, and so having the sigils here and available in a place where I can collect it and go to and reuse it and reuse it and reuse it, it keeps that connection open. It does keep it strong. The energy is there. And these are entities that I enjoy having in my life. So no issues. Now that said, I've done the same thing with other spirits, not in this book, to test it. Because somebody's like, well, yeah, okay, dragons, but don't do that with demons like the Goetia. Yeah, so naturally I did it with the Goetia. I've had no issues. In fact, I have had no issues. My relationships, my friendships with the Goetic spirits has increased. And that is my preferred method, is to keep a tome like this with the entities and spirits I work with in it so that I can just reach for the book and work with it. And some people, they want individual discs that they can hold in their hand, like a talisman. That's okay too. It really is a preference of the matter. But again, let's say you're doing something like working with Citri with a sigil spell kind of method. You're doing a combo work where you're going to be evoking Citri, but you're also going to be doing a sigil spell. And you're using his sigil. Well, clearly you can't do that with this, because if you write all over this, it's not going to be useful for very long. So in that case, I would print the sigil out. I'd have Citri's sigil on one side. I would write the petition out on the back side of exactly what it is I'm wanting. I would evoke Citri. I would tell Citri what I'm wanting. I would empower the sigil while working with Citri. And then I would send Citri out to begin the work, and I would burn the sigil at the same time. And release it to manifest the result I was wanting. Unless, let's say I'm doing a long-term working for prosperity. Same situation, only now we're going to work with Expoonwell for some prosperity. I would use his sigil. I'd write out my exact goals, what I'm meaning by prosperity, on the back of the sigil. I would then evoke or contact Expoonwell, repeat the same process, only instead of burning it, I'm now going to tuck the sigil away in an envelope or someplace where I can keep a hold of it. And that's one thing I love about these little journals. They have all these little pockets back here where I can tuck things away. And I can keep it for as long as that sigil is going to be in effect. Which, usually a sigil like that, I keep it running for a month or so. A couple weeks to a month. I don't do sigils that stay operative very long. If it's something that I think is sigil magic level and I want it long term, I go over to Servitor Magic. So yeah, honestly, what you do with a sigil really is up to you and how you feel about it. There are people who do not want to keep active sigils for any reason. In fact, what I'm doing here with this book, they're going to tell me I'm crazy. They'd be so paranoid. They'd be terrified. They don't want to do that. Groovy, don't do it. There is no right or wrong to this particular question. You just got to do what feels right to you. Now, if you are going to take the time to craft a sigil and burn it into wood or something and do all that extra work, I would probably hang on to that unless you want to redo the extra work every time, and there are people who choose to do that. I actually know a person who actually engraves metal every time and doesn't keep it. I don't even want to think how much his practice cost him in funds, but that's his choice. There is no definitive right or wrong here. It's just what you choose to do. I hope that helps answer some questions. If you have further questions, drop them below. I'll do my best to answer them, and if need be, I'll do a part 2 to this video. As always, thank you all for watching. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications so you're notified anytime we release a new video or we go live. We do live streams Friday and Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you would, also consider supporting the channel and the work we do to get information out to all the seekers trying to master their lives and themselves and their practice by hitting the join button below, and taking part in the members only tiers and perks available. And be sure to check us out at the Working Dragon Mystic School, where we do have online courses at workingdragonmystic.com. And until next time, everyone, keep at it, keep working hard, keep making the progress on your path, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.